I am just back from seeing Spiral. Me and 5 other people in the movie theater. So Spiral is supposed to be, well, it's the first Saw movie without its original villain, so it's a copycat, and it stars Chris Rock, Samuel L. Jackson. They play son and father. They are, Chris Rock is Detective Banks. I just bit my tongue. Detective Banks, and his dad is retired Chief Banks. And then there is the guy, I really need to get caught up on Handmaid's Tale. I'm hearing so much about it that I feel like I really need to get caught up. I didn't dislike it when I watched it, but I don't know, lost the drive to watch it. It was a show my husband and I were supposed to watch together. And he didn't like it, and I did, so I just didn't continue it without him. Anyway, it has the guy from Handmaid's Tale. He plays Detective Shank for whatever reason. I can't remember that last name. It's a unique last name. So it centers around Detective Banks. He doesn't have a good relationship with all the other cops in the precinct. It takes place in New York. The other cops don't like him because he ratted out another police officer. And so this jigsaw copycat is targeting police officers, which I thought was kind of interesting given last year and all of the stuff in the country with the police force. I was like, wow, I wonder if that was intentional. I will say that I liked Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson in the movie. I thought that I would, and I did. With Chris Rock, though, I did see that he had, in an interview, said something about he wanted to take on more serious roles. And he did, especially in the beginning. I feel like he added a little bit of, as one article put it, levity that's kind of needed up against all of these jigsaw killings. I did, when I came back home from the movie, I wanted to look at I just looked at some headlines and like one review to see if people were thinking the same thing that I was. So one article, I think, gave it the right word. You know, he and Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson give the movie a little bit of levity, which I feel like growing up in horror movies, I always liked a little bit of comedy to lighten the mood. And we all know that Saw movies are very, very gory. I did almost feel like at certain points, though, in the beginning at least, that I felt like he was, instead of just doing his dialogue, I felt like he was like doing a stand-up routine. So he did seem kind of like stiff a little bit in a more dramatic role. But I feel like Chris Rock is just Chris Rock no matter what role he's in. I just kind of feel like he just is himself, sort of. I will also say that I totally saw who the copycat is coming, and I think that anybody that sees this movie would. I just didn't know like what his story would be, and they lay all that out at some point in the movie. One of the things that I was reading, and one of the things that I said in my trailer reaction to Spiral, was it made me feel like it was taking some inspiration from Seven, and it had a little bit more of that like 90s crime thriller horror, you know, that we got often in that decade. And if you know anything about me, you know that that's not a bad thing, because I am all about anything 90s related, 80s, like I'm just all about the nostalgia, so I did not dislike that. For someone that's only seen the first Saw movie, and that was really gory, I did feel like and you know, in my opinion, was echoed in this review that I read, that I was personally thankful that the torture scenes and the death scenes they went quick. And I even like had to look away and was having a hard time, because to me it was really graphic, but this article that reviewed the movie even said that it was diluted a bit from its predecessors. That's not a bad thing in my book. So I think overall, I would recommend you go see it. I feel kind of somewhere in the middle about it. I didn't feel like it was horrible, because honestly, if Chris Rock wasn't in it, I probably wouldn't have gone to go see it. He was really the draw for me, because I wanted to see, you know, he's a comedian. I was surprised to see him in a horror movie, and I also read that he really wanted to get put in a Saw movie, and I saw that he was a producer, an executive producer on it. So if he had not been in it, I don't think there would have really been a draw for me to go see it. So yeah, as I said, it wasn't amazing. It wasn't the worst. So I feel somewhere in the middle about it. So I would say, if you have any interest to go see it for yourself. And with that, I'm going to commence the spoilers, if you care to just jump right to the point and find out what happens. Otherwise, that is my spoiler-free review. If you don't want it spoiled for you and you want to see more of these kinds of videos, please leave a like, subscribe, and turn notifications to see when I upload. Now for the spoilers. So the opening I thought was really interesting, because it shows Chris Rock with a group of men who I guess are criminals, and they're robbing other criminals in this hotel, I think. And I was like, wait, I thought he was supposed to be a police officer, and it should have been obvious to me that he was undercover, but I just wasn't thinking about it. But he was undercover, like deep undercover, and but he, I guess, like the robbery that he did, his boss wasn't happy about it. That's kind of how the movie opens. Another part of the opening is we get our first cop that is killed. He is placed in this contraption, and all the contraptions are very like metally and like, I don't know, old-timey, or just very pieced together, like, I don't know. They're just always very gritty and like rusty looking. So this police officer is patrolling this 4th of July carnival thing, and a woman gets her purse stolen, and right off the bat you can kind of see he's being lured away, because he pursues the thief down this sewer basically, where he's entrapped and he is strung up with his tongue in a contraption, and he has to either kick the chair out from underneath him and rip his tongue out, or get hit by a train. He gets hit by a train. Pretty much everybody like that gets set up to make a choice to die or like rip off an appendage basically dies. Even if they're in the process of trying to rip off their appendage, they die. So the precinct starts getting these thumb drives with clues, body parts. Everything kind of seems to center around Detective Banks. He gets a new partner just because he's kind of been going rogue, and the new captain wants him to have a partner, and that's where we get the Detective Schneck. He says that he has a wife and a baby, and they start trying to solve solving these murders as more police officers are killed, but we see why the other officers don't like Detective Banks. So he basically outed a corrupt police officer who apparently police officers were just shooting folks left and right who disrespected them or whatever. So he got a cop sent to jail for shooting somebody who was going to be a witness. And even though he exposed somebody that was corrupt, apparently, to the cops in this movie, the oath, to basically not rat each other out precedes any other moral obligation. We also see that after he did this, he was out and he was confronted with somebody with a gun and called for backup, and his calls purposely went unanswered, and then it resulted in him being shot. He survived, but you can kind of see now that there's a lot of animosity towards between everybody in the police department. When it gets to him losing his brand new partner, Detective Schneck, I was very suspicious about it because he was supposed to have been skinned, but you don't see it happening. You see all of the other killings, you see the face of the person that they're killing, you kind of see it happen. But with regard to Schneck, you only know that it's him being killed because he had a tattoo of what was supposed to be his baby's name on his forearm. And then when they find this person who'd been skinned, or actually when a clue came to the precinct, it was basically that area on his forearm that had been cut off and put in a box for Detective Banks to know that his partner had been killed. But when Detective Banks goes and tries to, he theorizes that the person behind all this is the cop that he sent to jail. That person is out now and going to meetings and living in a basement of a church. So Banks goes to confront him and finds him strung up, and he's in this game to, Banks is supposed to, he's being tested to decide to help this person who has made his life in his precinct hell, and who he had to put away for murdering somebody in the line of duty. And he tries to help him because Banks is supposed to be one of the only good police officers in that precinct, and he just does what's right. So he tries to help him, but he's ultimately not able to, and that person dies. All the while, he's trying to get a hold of his dad, and he can't find his dad. But we're about to find his dad. So after the dirty cop dies, Dr. Banks, Detective Banks goes up a level or two in this warehouse and finds Detective Schneck. But that's not his name. I don't remember what his name is, but Charlie is not his son. Charlie is his dad. His dad is the person that the dirty cop killed, and he was 12 at the time and saw Detective Banks be a good cop and testify against the bad cop, and he wants to enlist Detective Banks to help him ferret out all of the bad cops and to get rid of them all. But Detective Schneck, I'm just going to call him that even though that's not his real name because I don't remember what it is, he takes Detective Banks to see his dad. His dad is strung up. He has been, bloodletted? He's been collecting his dad's blood slowly to the point where he doesn't have much blood left in his body, and Detective Banks is supposed to hit this spiral above, like up near the roof, to let his dad down. Detective Schneck tells Detective Banks that his dad, when he was captain, there was some kind of law or ordinance that basically let police do what they needed to do to restore order, which resulted in a lot of bad things, illegal things. And Detective Banks didn't know that about his dad, and Detective Schneck let him know. And Detective Banks shoots his father down. That sounds weird. He shoots the spiral and lets his father down. But then his dad's like, he's getting away, go after him. So he goes after him. and starts beating him up. But then prior to all this, Detective Schneck he made a call to the police so that they would be on their way. And then in a twist, and this all went pretty quickly, and I think I was hoping, of course I'm optimistic and like I don't like deaths in movies, even though I'm going to go see a horror movie, like that's what I'm going to go see, so it's pretty predictable. But I will say that I did like the ending. And that's one of the things that I read in the review, was that the movie was kind of a watered down, just bore of a movie, but that the ending, I would say, salvages it, but like ties it together really well in the end, and kind of like goes out in a bang, basically. So Detective Banks thinks that his dad is, down from being up high and that he's okay. Well, as the police are basically sawing through this door, there is a rope that is severed and it brings his dad back up. And then harken back to a couple times in the movie where you see this pig marionette, and his dad is turned into a marionette and has these like gun barrels on his arms, and he is made to attack the police coming in, and then he is in turn shot in front of Detective Banks, and he's like, no, oh my God, like obviously this is horrific, but that is how it ends. So I don't know. So the movie is called Spiral from the Book of Saw. I don't know if there's just going to be other kind of standalone movies since the original Jigsaw Killer is gone. I did go back and read like the Wikipedia for all the Saw movies. I don't really intend to go see them, but I basically know the history of it. I saw the first one, but the others I just went and looked at their Wikipedias. So I don't know if there's gonna be more. And honestly, if they get some big names, again referencing this review that I read before I started this video, they say the same thing that I did, and it is that they've got some big names, some people that you enjoy to see on the screen, and really that kind of helps maybe a predictable plot line. So who knows? If they get interesting enough actors for the next one, I'll probably go see it too. So that's it. And if you saw this movie, let me know what your opinion is. And I think the next movie review I'm going to be doing is going to be A Quiet Place Part 2. I've already bought my tickets for that. So that's it. And I will see you in my next video. Is that it? Let me just make sure. I think that's it.